Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about a mystery problem with a Ford Focus 1 litre Ecoboost. This problem, in my opinion, is a very odd problem. It spiraled from a turbo issue to a misfire issue to a mystery fault that drove us to the brink of insanity. We finished it about a week ago, so I didn't want to make this video until I got feedback from the customer. By the way, the car's absolutely fine. We had one of their other cars in for MOT today. They told us this Focus is now perfect. It runs like the day they bought it, which is brilliant. So I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee and then we'll dive into it. Good coffee. Anyway, let's get into it. This car came in back in June for a service. When they brought it, they told us sometimes the car loses power. And we thought, okay, we'll do the service. We'll run a diagnostics check on it and see what codes we have. We did the service. We couldn't find anything obviously wrong. We checked all the boost pipes. Everything was fine. The codes we had when we diagnosed it were P0299, which is turbocharger supercharger underboost condition. And we had two more codes, oxygen sensor and turbo cooling water pump failure. I've had this problem before on a Peugeot 207 GT. The car would take a dump and lose all its power. No matter what I did, the only code that would ever come back was for this turbo cooling pump. So I thought, okay, we'll change the cooling pump first and see where we get to. By the way, I've had P0299 codes before on these Ford Focuses. There's a small vacuum valve. There's a small non-return valve on the vacuum pump. In fact, I think I might have them here. There we go. We keep these valves in stock. These non-return valves, for some reason, they just fall apart. So we thought, okay, let's pull the valve out and have a look. And sure enough, this valve had collapsed internally. We pulled out the diaphragm and the inner body, so I thought, great, we found the problem. So we swapped the valve out, boxed the car up, and drove it. We didn't really have any power loss issues. By the way, I did change the cooling pump and the oxygen sensor. So we drove the car around and it felt okay. We didn't have any power loss issues. So we thought, great, it's fixed. We finished the service. We invoiced the car. We called the owner, your car's ready, come and get it. They paid us and went away quite happily. About 2 days later, my dad gets a call. Sorry to bother you, that's how the call started, but it's losing power again. And we thought, great, we've got another underlying issue here. So we said, okay, bring the car back and we'll take another look. We went through the boost system again. We checked all the turbo pipes. We couldn't find anything wrong or anything obviously wrong. Here's the thing, it would go into underboost condition sporadically, not all the time. So I thought, let's check the map sensor and see if that has any problems. The map sensor measured out perfect. And we thought, great, now we're going to have to dive into the turbo. We checked the vacuum pipes from the turbo to the little solenoid block underneath the inlet manifold. Everything was fine. The only thing I could think of on the turbo, there's a small valve on the bottom of the casing where a vacuum pipe goes into. Now bear in mind, I've never had a turbo off one of these cars before. So this is new territory. So we pulled this diaphragm off. We had a look at it. We couldn't find anything wrong. By chance, the car dumped all its power on us when we tested it. So we had another look, and the only thing we could put it down to was a defective turbo. Here's another thing. About 2 years ago, we changed the cam belt, the wet timing belt, which was a nightmare in itself. Now, because you have to drop the sump on these cars to change these belts, we cleaned out the oil pickup pipe. That little gauze piece on the bottom of the oil pump, it was chock solid. It was blocked. So I'm starting to think, has that blockage that we had caused a problem with the turbo? And we thought it's very possible. So anyway, we did some research online. We spoke to a few people and they all said the same thing. It's got to be a turbo problem. So we thought, great, by now this is July, just before we shut down for summer holidays. So what we agreed with the customers was, take your car away, park it up, call us after the holidays and we'll get a turbo ordered, because I ain't ordering a turbo now. When it's holiday period, it will get lost in transit. So come September, we're back at work, we call them, bring your car in, let's get the numbers off and we'll get a turbo ordered. We got the turbo ordered, we received it, we called the car back. And to be perfectly honest, the turbo wasn't as difficult to change as we thought. I was expecting sheared bolts, rounded nuts, strip threads. We didn't have any of that. In fact, I think the job took about just under 2 hours to change. So anyway, because we had to drop the cooling system, or we had to drop the coolant out, we ran the car up to temperature on live data when the job was done. Oh, by the way, I blew through the catalytic converter and flushed it out. There was nothing wrong with it. I checked all the turbo gaskets, all the exhaust manifold gaskets, all the catalytic converter gaskets. Everything was fine. I put new gaskets on anyway. So we're running the car up to temperature. And we didn't get any faults. I revved it to the rev limiter. There were no faults. I couldn't fault it. We couldn't fault it. So anyway, I let it do its initial fan starting operation. We parked it overnight and let the coolant pull back down. Topped it up again. And we thought, initially I thought, I think we've cracked it. I think we fixed the problem now. Now bear in mind, while the turbo was off, I checked all the vacuum pipes again. I took the brake vacuum pump off and checked it. It was perfect. I couldn't fault anything. However, something told me when we ordered the turbo initially, let's get a TCV or turbo control valve ordered as well, just in case. We haven't found, at this point, we still hadn't found anything that's what it is, you know? So we got both of them ordered. So the next morning, we take the car for a drive, or Dad took it for a drive because I had another job to do. He comes back about 5 minutes later, and I'm thinking, hang on, the car's fixed and it's a rocket ship and he doesn't have to test it anymore. Or we've got a serious problem here. As soon as he came down our drive and I saw his face, I knew there's still a problem. And he said, when I'm driving and I'm accelerating hard, under hard acceleration, it's like I'm running into a brick wall. It's hesitating. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I haven't touched anything to do with the ignition system or any of the vacuum pipes apart from the two that I disconnected off this turbo and replaced it. So we took the car for a drive, and sure enough, it was like hitting a brick wall. You put your foot down on acceleration, bop, 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 bop. It was almost like it was misfiring. So I checked on our top-down, on our diagnostics PC, our top-down diagnostics, and we've got a misfire live counter. So we thought, okay, maybe it's a plug breaking down. I mean, the car's been driven around with no boost, for God's sake. Maybe it's put an ignition coil into an overload and popped the resistor. We just don't know. So I sat with the diagnostics and I had Dad drive it like he did. And sure enough, the misfire counter was coming up, really coming up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. So we thought, right, now we could put a set of plugs in it first, which are only about 10,000 kilometers old. We're not defying that there could be a problem with them, obviously. Or we could bite the bullet and put some ignition coils and put 3 new ignition coils in it. So at the end we decided, right, as we've got to take the ignition coils out anyway, let's put a new set in. So I ordered plugs and ignition coils, and at the same time I thought, let's change that TCV. You never know, maybe it's got a problem that it's not. The thing is, we didn't have any faults at this stage. The turbo underboost code was gone, and it hasn't come back since. So anyways, we changed the TCV, we ordered a set of coils, we got them the next day when we fitted them. We ran it, the first 500 meters, it didn't lose any boost, it didn't hesitate, and it didn't miss. And the misfire counter didn't go up. And I thought, ooh, you know, this is promising, maybe we fixed it. No sooner had I said that, it hesitated. And the misfire count started going up again. And we thought, great, we've got an underlying electronic problem here now. So we brought it back. We went through the whole system again. We checked resistances on the ignition coil plugs. We checked power and ground. I cleaned all the earths because I have had it in the past where a broken earth wire will do all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff with an ECU. But I couldn't find anything. And at the end of it, I sort of ran out of options. I thought, I don't know. The problem is when the car initially developed this underboost problem, it was undrivable. It got to the point, like I said, we told the customer, take it back home and park it. So we don't know if this was caused by the turbo problem or is it something that we've done? And by this point, I'm questioning myself, have I made a mistake on the turbo installation? Then we got busy with an influx of work, which is why the R56 engine job didn't get filmed. And then Dad got sick. So the car got shelved. It got shelved along with the problem. The whole time that I was doing other work and sorting out everything else, I kept coming back to this problem. And I remembered that Dad had a problem like this on my uncle's Ford when he had it. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. This is a throttle body off a 1 litre Ecoboost. About 6 years ago, my uncle was driving in traffic and the car stopped revving. Whatever he did with the accelerator pedal, it wouldn't rev. My dad changed this throttle body on it and it was perfect. So I'm thinking to myself, hang on, could this throttle body be defective? This is the throttle body off this Focus. And sure enough, there's something broken inside it. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but there's something rattling inside it. So I thought to myself, okay, if the throttle body isn't operating properly, if it's going to a certain point and the gears are slipping, the throttle plate is going to slip. It's going to go back to a neutral position and the car's going to dump power. By coincidence, it was the same symptoms we were getting as though we had a bad throttle body. So we thought, right, okay, they're not that expensive. Let's get one. So we received the body. I swapped it out. I did a throttle relearn and reset the adaptations on it because there's certain adaptations you got to carry out on these cars. The moment I took it round the block, it dumped power. And I'm thinking, right, well, there's that theory gone out the window. But I'm not. Here's the thing. Whatever we did, whatever we changed, and whatever route we went down, it seemed to improve the problem. Remember when I said we put a misfire counter on the car, on live data? Every time I took it out, I had the misfire counter plugged in. Whatever we did, it slowed the misfire count down. Whereas before it would go up practically linear, then sort of vertical, and now it's sort of going up. It's as though we've got something breaking down. I ruled out the plugs by this stage because I tried them in another Focus that we had in, and it was perfect. It's not a bad coil because that would have given me a code, surely. So I thought, right, have we got a sticking valve on this car? A sticking cylinder valve. So we carried out a leak-off test. It measured up perfectly. All the while I'm going back to, there's all sorts of vacuum pipes on this car. But surely a vacuum leak would have given me a fault. Nearly everything connects to the TCV valve or the turbo, and that would have given me an underboost problem. So out of desperation, the two vacuum pipes on the old turbo, I swapped them over. It didn't even get up the drive, and we got a check light straight away. Something to do with the actuator valve not opening properly, the wastegate actuator, and the lower diaphragm. So I thought, right, well, we've ruled that out now. It then got to the point where the only thing I had to go on was that boost solenoid on the bottom of the inlet manifold. And I'm going to put a picture of that on the screen now. That valve connects to the turbo, the vacuum pump, and the TCV through obvious T connectors and split off pipes. So I pulled it off. I took the solenoid off and measured it on our bench. It was working. So then I went online and found out how to test these solenoids properly under different conditions. I couldn't fault it. So at the end of it, I thought, that's it. I don't know where to go now. It got now where I was thinking, is it really something we've done, or is it something that the customer might have caused driving it with no turbo, which would ultimately relate back to me, telling him to take it away and park it. So I'm thinking now, who do I know that's worked on these Fords? I asked on countless forums, countless Facebook pages. Nobody had had these problems, hesitating under hard acceleration. They all said ignition coils and plugs. Well, I'd ruled the ignition coils and plugs out by this stage. I could rule the vacuum pump out as well because the non-return valve on it was new. And I'd carried out a vacuum test directly off the pump. It measured up perfect. And we weren't dropping that. Here's the thing. Everything I did, the vacuum on the assembly measured up perfect. It didn't drop. I couldn't find any vacuum leaks whatsoever. So I can rule out a problem with the basic engine or with the basic vacuum system. Then, before I condemned anything, I thought, right, let's get my boost tester kit, plug the turbo pipes and see what happens. Maybe we've got a pinhole in one of the pipes somewhere. that's causing it to run a bit lean. We pressurized it, I couldn't find anything. Anyway, back to now, I'm thinking of people who run Fords, who work on these Ford Focus Ecoboosts, and see what they have to say. There was one guy, scrapyard friend of mine, who did have trouble with his oxygen sensors. And I'm thinking, this is getting to the point now where I'm going to start having to unplug sensors and whatnot and see if anything changes. By this time, Dad was back at work. He'd recovered. So I said, right, I'm going to go and see my mate and see if he can shed any light on this subject. And Dad says, all right, while you're out, I'll take another look. Because by this stage, I'm thinking, surely it has to be something I've done. It's got to be. So anyway, I went out and Dad had another look at the car. I got to the scrapyard and the phone rings. It's my dad. And he says, you're not going to believe this, Daniel. And I'm thinking, go on, tell me something that I've messed up. And he says, no, but I think I fixed it. And I'm thinking, no way has he fixed it. I asked him straight, what did you do? He says, come back and I'll tell you. I thought, right, stuff it. He's having a bloody wind-up with me now. Anyway, I spoke to my mate. We couldn't really think of anything else. So I said to him, all right, let me go back and I'll take another look through the system. I get back home and my dad says, have a look and see what I've unplugged. So I go and have a look and he's unplugged number 1 oxygen sensor. Bear in mind, it's already put the check light on. And he says, get in there and let's go for a drive. So we grabbed my top on, my diagnostics, put it on, hooked it up to the car and we drove it. I had misfire, fuel pressure. Oh, we even checked the fuel pressure in the injectors at this stage because I'd even had the high pressure fuel pump off and taken it to my specialist and told him test it. Which it was fine, thank God, because they're not cheap. I looked at the misfire counter and lo and behold, it didn't even move. It didn't miss, it didn't even count one misfire. So I said, I'm not having this. Let's go down to the airport on the highway. Let's do another drive cycle. We couldn't do a drive cycle because of this problem initially when we fitted the turbo. So we carried it down to the airport and the car's like a bloody flying machine now. And I'm thinking, could this oxygen sensor have gone stupid because the turbo packed up? We don't know. This is it. It's a sensor. You can't tell when a sensor's going to go off. But the only thing that I could think of, apart from going stupid when the turbo packed up because we had low underboost, or basically low boost period, was it wasn't an original sensor. It was an aftermarket sensor. The problem is, when we changed the oxygen sensor, the code never came back for O2 sensor. When we serviced it and did all our diagnostics checks, we had the P0299, which was on the boost, plus a turbo water pump relation fault code, plus an oxygen sensor. I got a coolant pump here, locally, but I couldn't get a sensor here for less than 400 quid. So I brought one in. But what gets me is the code for the oxygen sensor never came back. So I basically ruled that out from the beginning. Can you believe this bloody crap? Now, I will admit, the whole time we were doing this job, I did think of, on 2 or 3 occasions, I did think we had a bad oxygen sensor. But again, we didn't have any codes. When I put the new sensor on it, it cleared the codes. Which is why I ruled it out in the first place. I've got the old turbo here. And I'm going to show you exactly what I... Oh, big hand in the way. This was the diaphragm that I checked initially when I was carrying out the diagnostics operation with the wastegate arm. Now, the turbo does have a micro crack in it, which I later discovered when I heated it up with our blowtorch. The crack is right where the wastegate arm is. So yeah, the turbo did have a problem. Regardless of any other problems that we had later, which we did, this turbo did have a problem. So anyway, I phoned around again on the off chance that maybe somebody has an original oxygen sensor in that they can lend me to test. Nobody did. And I thought, okay, we've come this far, let's bite the bullet. What Dad said it, we've come this far. Let's get an original sensor ordered for it and let's try it. We found an original, well, not an original, we found a compatible sensor on Amazon for less than €100. So we ordered it. We put it on, we reset all the adaptations again, everything, throttle body, ignition coils, you name it, we reset it. I drove the car for 2 days and it was perfect. The fuel trims were bang on both number 1 and number 2 oxygen sensor, and the catalytic converter readings were perfect. Driving it round for 2 days, I had my diagnostics on it. We didn't count one misfire. So by this time I'm thinking, right, now we fixed the problem. The thing is, anything we did to the car, as I've said, improved its running capability. Changing the turbo cleared the P0299 underboost condition we had. We got rid of it. Then, of course, driving it with the hesitation we had, I mean, it was a really serious hesitation. Exactly as Dad described, driving into a brick wall. Changing coils and plugs, it improved it. Changing the throttle body, it's improved it. Changing the TCV, it improved it. Blowing through all the vacuum pipes, it kind of improved it. I mean, the only thing I can put this down to is everything had a knock-on effect off the turbo when it packed up. Or it's been building up for the last 2 years because the turbo was oil starved, which I think it was. It's just one of those things. I mean, I'll never know what happened with that sensor. But something catastrophic happened with the electronics on it to give us a code. When we drove it hard, before I went to speak to my friend, we did get an oxygen sensor code. I forgot to mention that we got an oxygen sensor code, system 2 rich. I can't remember what number it is now. Which initially is what put me onto oxygen sense, or which is what put Dad onto oxygen sensors. But the thing is, it took intense driving to the point where I was afraid we were going to damage the engine to find it. Anyway, it is what it is. Like I said, the car's been driven for a week now. The owner's over the moon with it. We had a car in today for MOT. We got feedback, the car's perfect. So at least we know all that work wasn't for nothing. We have fixed the car, and hopefully it's going to be on the road for many more years to come. But changing the cam belt, swapping the turbo out, I can't really think of... Alright, I think a wet cam belt is a stupid idea in any case. I mean, who the hell... Which idiot at Ford designed the belt running in oil? I'll never know. It is what it is. But apart from cam belt problems and turbo problems, I haven't really had any other issues with these cars. So, it's 6 to 1 and half a dozen of the other. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video so that somebody out there, if they have this problem, test your oxygen sensor. Test the throttle body. I mean, I'm going to open the throttle body up when I get a spare hour and have a look, because there's definitely something stripped inside there. You know, troubleshoot, persevere. Don't give up. One thing my dad told me, the only time in my life I've ever been beaten by something is when I wasn't there to tackle it myself. It just goes to show. Perseverance and determination, you can solve anything. Anyways, guys, that's it from me. It's Friday evening, so I'm going to go home. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all in the next one. One other thing I'm going to mention before I go. When I was rebuilding the R56, I promised you all I'd show you my Blue Mini, which is what the channel was mostly based off. And I never did. Well, there you all are. Lovely paint job. Wheels have been cleaned up. And I dare say the interior is still looking immaculate. Really happy with this. This one is my baby. That is staying with me until the day I die. This one is a daily. One that I can tinker around with. But, yeah, I'm happy with both of them. It might take me a while, but when I say I'm going to do something, for a video, I'll do it. Anyways, guys, I'm out of here now. See ya.